Assalamualaikum dan salam sejahtera. Anda sedang menonton Sudut Pandang secara langsung dari studio Awani di Bukit Kewangan, Kuala Lumpur. Dan malam ini sekali lagi Sudut Pandang menjejak isu di Gaza, di tebing barat, di Palestin, di Asia Barat dan di Timur Tengah. Kerana selagi isu tentang penderitaan masyarakat Palestin tidak diselesaikan, selagi itu masyarakat sivil di seluruh dunia tidak mampu untuk duduk diam, kerana itu tuntutan kita semua. Dan oleh itu malam ini ceritanya hanyalah cerita seorang, cerita bagaimana Lauren Booth menjadi pembela nasib masyarakat Palestin. Untuk itu saya ingin minta izin bicara dalam bahasa Inggeris kerana Lauren Booth datangnya daripada UK. Beliau adalah adik ipar kepada bekas ataupun mantan Perdana Menteri di sana, iaitu Tony Blair, dan beliau sekarang menjadi aktivis yang memperjuangkan hak-hak kemanusiaan Palestin. Beliau juga mudah untuk saya kerana beliau adalah juga seorang wartawan dan juga seorang penyiar. I was just introducing. Assalamualaikum first of all to you. Thank you so much for making time. I know you have a very hectic schedule, but I would like to pick up from the dinner talk that you gave on Saturday night, because you do say that do not ask the journalists, you know. It's the responsibility of all, if I can get the meaning right. I would like to put that all civil society around the world, no matter where you are, if the issue of Palestine has not been solved, then we must all take collective responsibility. And for you, you have proven this. I've always wondered, how do you measure the line between covering something and taking up a cause for it? But you've shown us an example. You have taken a personal pursuit and or professional one regarding Palestine. If I can ask you to indulge us a bit, maybe if you can go back a few years and tell us how it all started, Lauren.
Well, as you say, in 2005, I went to the West Bank as a journalist to cover the elections there, which Mahmoud Abbas won. And I had very little interest in the Middle East and certainly very little knowledge of Palestine or the Palestinian people. And it really didn't take more than 2 checkpoints to wake me up to the fact that even as someone who was fairly well read, but again not that interested in the Middle East, I knew nothing. I thought I had a little knowledge of what was going on in the world, but to wake up and know nothing is quite a shock. The elections went on, and what I saw were a highly educated population in Ramallah. Okay. I saw women voting. Again, my preconceptions about Muslim women and Muslim women in the Middle East were shattered. What I saw was educated women going out to vote, going out to work, taking a part in civil society. And I saw that I misunderstood the world. And that realisation made it absolutely compulsory for someone whose job is in the media to find out what was really going on.
You told the story about how you were on a bus with Chip Carter, Jimmy Carter's son, and you saw for yourself what happened. Or even now, as we're speaking, maybe it's happening at a checkpoint somewhere, hundreds of checkpoints, not thousands. What happened to an old man and what he said is etched in your memory forever.
There's a very major checkpoint in Kalandia outside Ramallah, which is a big city in the West Bank. And during the elections, Israel had told the international community it was opening the checkpoints, these barriers that stop people moving from city to city, in order that people could register to vote in their home village. We were on a coach going back to Ramallah when it was stopped at a checkpoint closed by Israel, or at least only partially open. And we heard shouting. And we looked outside the coach, and there was a man on his knees. He must have been 60 years old, a Palestinian man. And a soldier had a gun pointing at him. And the man was shouting, shouting, shouting in Arabic, looking terrified and angry, but shouting. And I said to the driver, "What's he saying?" And the driver said, "I'm not an animal. Why are you treating me like this?" And there was no compassion in that soldier's face, and there was no reason that we could possibly see for that man to be on his knees. And the problem with that situation was it was so typical. It was so typical. It was like a traffic jam anywhere else in the world. People just walking around going, well, this is our lives.
You have no doubt that this is a part of a bigger strategy to take away the humanity, to kill the human spirit, to stop the people living, if I can read it that way.
Well, this problem in the Middle East has to be solved by the rest of the world. It's very easy when we're in Britain or when we're in Kuala Lumpur to go, this is a regional problem. We can see it as Jews and Muslims, that's wrong. We can see it as a political problem, that's probably more truth to that. But what we can't do is not get involved. And, you know, when people say to me, look, you're a British citizen, why don't you care about people in London? Well, of course I do. But you see, why would we care about apartheid? Why did people around the world rise up about that? The reason we did it was such a great crime on such a mass scale and so inhuman that we had to take action as a world community. And that's the same in Palestine in the 21st century and indeed for the last 63 years.
And you've done your research. You've cycled with a Palestinian cycling team. You have known how many is it that was, you know, women especially that suffered at the checkpoints, even ambulance that carries the sick and wounded, or even mothers wanting to give birth. And what gives the interest? And you said at the dinner that if you can stay, there's nowhere else that we'd rather stay but in Palestine itself.
Yeah, the first time I went to Gaza for a long stay was in 2008 with the Free Gaza movement. Again, a movement largely set up by women, American women as well, mostly women in their 60s, sent 2 small old boats across the Mediterranean to the Gaza Strip. And while I was there, I felt firsthand what it is to be under siege. This is a term we use easily. Gaza's under siege, Gaza's blockaded. It sounds like Israel won't allow nice new cars in, or like it's a blockade on screwdrivers. It sounds a bit kind of unemotional. Well, let me tell you what I saw there. I met a woman called Nisreen. Nisreen is a beautiful woman in her 30s. And she came up to me and she said, I haven't seen my son for 2.5 years. She had been in a West Bank town, had gone through a checkpoint, and that evening when she'd gone to go back home, the Israeli soldier there had said, your paper says you were born in Gaza. And so they forced her back to Gaza. So it's like going right across a country into Gaza. They threw her in there where she's illegal and homeless, and she can't get back to her son and her husband in the West Bank. That's 2.5 years. That's just one broken family, but it absolutely broke my heart.
And there are more stories like students who came back from universities all over the world, and they're not allowed to leave Gaza to continue and all that. But there's more than that. We must also go back to the time of when the bombs were flying, when the collateral damage is defined as not defined at all in Operation Cast Lead, for example. And you have a real life example because you went down there to the rubbles of what was formerly houses, and you spoke to the mothers. And I'll have to go for the first commercial break, but once we are back, how do you come to terms and be at peace with all this? Because if we were to help a cause, we must also have a level-headed thinking and strategize our fight accordingly. That I will ask the journalist in you to tell me after this short break. I'm still with